Okay, Chair, we're now live.
Thank you. So, good evening, councillors. This meeting of Cabinet on the 9th of July 2020 is being live streamed as a public meeting. It will also be recorded and the recording subsequently made available via the council's website. In addition, under the local authorities, executive arrangements, meeting and access to information England regulations 2012, other people may film, record, tweet or blog from this meeting. The use of any such images or recordings is not under the council's control. Please note that members of the public viewing the meeting via the live stream can only see the person who is speaking. Also, that it takes a second or so for Zoom to switch view to that person when they begin. Participants should please ensure that their microphone is muted when they are not speaking. So the first item is we're going to go through and verbally confirm with each person whether they can see and hear. So, Councillor Bailey, can you see and hear?
Good evening. Yes, I can see and hear the proceedings. Thank you.
Councillor Boker, can you see and hear? Where's Councillor Boker gone?
Sorry. Good evening, everybody. Yes, I can see and hear.
Councillor Harper-Davies, can you see and hear?
Good evening, everyone. Yes, I can see and hear.
Councillor Mercer.
I can see and hear.
Councillor Poland.
Can both see and hear, Deputy Leader.
Councillor Rattray.
Hello, yes, I can see and hear the proceedings, thank you.
And Councillor Rawlings.
Thank you, Deputy Leader. I can see and hear the proceedings.
Okay. Councillor Smidovic.
Yes, I can see and hear, thank you.
So I'm going to ask all the officers present if they can. So first of all, the Chief Executive, Rob Mitchell, can you see and hear?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I can see and hear.
And Simon Jackson.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I can also see and hear.
Adrian Ward.
Yes, I can see and hear, Chair.
Leslie Tansley.
Yes, I can see and hear, thank you.
Thank you. Julie Robinson.
Yes, Chair, I can see and hear.
And Verity Graham.
Yes, Chair, I can see and hear.
And Karen Widowson.
Yes, Chair, I can see and hear proceedings, thank you.
And I hope Matt Goodger can hear and see, because otherwise we're completely lost.
Indeed I can, Chair.
Thank you. And Laura Strong, can you see and hear us?
I can, thank you, Councillor Barclay. We also have Justin Henry here with us this evening. If we could just
yep.
You can see and hear.
Yeah, of course. So
thank
Justin,
you.
can you see and hear us?
Yes, Chair, I can see and hear.
Thank you. And Councillor Seaton, can you hear and see us?
I can see and hear, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bolton. Is Councillor Bolton here?
Just allowed her to speak, so, oh, hang on.
Councillor Bolton here, Chair. I can see and hear the proceedings.
And Max Hunt, can you see and hear? Max, can you hear us and see? You're on mute at the moment.
Yes, I can now hear and see. Thank you.
Lovely. And Councillor Miah, can you hear and see?
I can, thank you.
Lovely. Okay, so we have one apologies for absence, and that's Councillor Morgan. So, does any member have any personal or pecuniary interest in the items to be discussed tonight that they would like to declare? Oh, if you'd unmute yourself, Margaret, and if you'd unmute yourself, James, as well. So, Margaret, what's your interest you'd like to declare?
I am a trustee of the Carpenter's Arms, which features on one of the items on the agenda.
And is that a personal or pecuniary or
personal?
Personal interest. Thank you. And Councillor Poland.
Thank you, Deputy Leader. I declare an interest in item 12 as a member of the Leicestershire Fire Authority.
Thank you. Okay, so we're now on to item 3. This year marks the 25th anniversary of the Srebrenica genocide, in which over 8,000 Muslim men and boys were murdered in the worst atrocity on European soil since the Second World War, simply because of their religious identity. As an organisation, we believe that we must ensure that we never forget about the genocide and reaffirm our commitment to standing up against all forms of hatred and prejudice that target groups based on their religion, ethnicity, gender, sexuality, or any type of difference. The theme of 2020, Every Action Matters, seeks to encourage every person to reflect upon their own behaviour and choices that they make, and demonstrate that however insignificant it may seem, every action matters, whether positive or negative. It aims to show that those who stand up and unite against hatred can make a difference. It sets out to dispel the notion that one person cannot make a difference, and show that the action of one individual does matter, and that they can achieve a great deal, however small their action may appear initially. It is now more important than ever for us to come together, no matter what our background, to celebrate diversity and stand together in solidarity against hatred and discrimination by mourning the loss of those who died at Srebrenica, and reflecting on how we as individuals, groups and communities can come together to build a better future without hatred. Thank you, councillors. So the next item is item 4, which is the minutes of the previous meeting. I'm going to go through and ask those who were present whether they agree the minutes. So starting with Councillor Boker, are you happy to agree the minutes?
Yes, I am, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Harper-Davis. Councillor Harper-Davis, are you happy to agree the minutes? You're unmuted now.
Yes, I am. Yes, sorry, Deputy Leader.
Right.
Yes, I am. I'm just switching screens.
Okay, Councillor Mercer, are you happy to agree the minutes?
Happy to agree.
Thank you. Councillor Poland.
I'm happy to agree.
Thank you. Councillor Rollings.
Yes, that's confirmed, Chair.
Yeah. Councillor Smidovic.
Happy to agree.
Thank you. So that confirms that the minutes of the last meeting are agreed. The next item we have is questions under Cabinet Procedure 10.7. And the first question we have is from Councillor Max Hunt. Max, are you happy to accept the reply, the question as it is, or would you like to read out the question?
I'm very happy to accept the reply, but I've, through the officers, I've put forward a supplementary just to clarify 1 or 2 points.
Okay.
And, the officers, I think, have a copy of that.
Okay, that's fine. Would you like to ask your supplementary question?
Well, my sincere thanks for this important background information, and welcome the prospect of declaring Boothwood a local nature reserve. I'm a little confused by the statement that Boothwood is, quotes, within the boundary of the Garendon Sue development area, and would be grateful for clarification of this, because the wood clearly lies outside the red line defined in the latest master plan, a section of which accompanied the supplementary little map.
Yeah.
Whilst I understand that some of the extensive woodland, this is a secondary point, some of the extensive woodland on the estate is different from Boothwood, would you confirm that the adjoining wood to Boothwood, extending as far as the obelisk, is particularly different from Boothwood? In other words, are they the same?
Yeah, the answer to that, Max, is having checked the application in detail, in the light of your question, we can confirm the adjoining, it is adjoining, but outside the boundary, as right. You indicated, and we ask you to accept apologies for this oversight. The senior ecologist advises that woodland within the Garendon estate will be managed for conservation and to control access recreational use as the new housing develops, but his characteristics are quite different from Boothwood. Boothwood is an established semi-natural woodland with a varied structure and canopy composition, while the woodland in question on the Garran estate is even aged plantation with a closed canopy and a fairly limited ground cover. It would be considered not necessary to make sense, therefore, to treat them in the same way. Now, I hope that that is the answer to your supplementary question. So, you have another question, Max, and this relates to the outdoor gym. So would you...
Yes, I'm very happy with that, and I'm happy with the supplementary answer. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So the next question is from Councillor Gill Bolton, I believe. Gill, if I could ask you to unmute yourself, are you happy to accept the answer as it is written there?
Thank you, Chair. And I'd like to thank the officer and the lead member for their response to my questions. Just a couple of points. I'm a little disappointed and surprised that no analysis of successful versus unsuccessful claims is available. I do understand that we're living in very difficult times, so I won't push that any further. But I have a supplementary question, which is, what are Charnwood Borough Council planning to do to further help residents in difficult financial circumstances to pay their council tax and any associated arrears? Thank you.
Yeah, well, we have a hardship fund for the council tax. You, as you already see in the answer, there is the ability to defer payments for a certain amount of time, and they can apply to the hardship fund if they so wish. And as far as falling into arrears are concerned, the officers are quite happy to talk to any residents regarding arrears and how they can possibly extend that over a period of time. But my main point is still, I think, you know, we're not unreasonable people. We will consider the circumstances of everybody and try and accommodate them as much as we possibly can. I appreciate your comments about the successful and unsuccessful. It is done on an equitable basis, and as you so rightly pointed out, the work involved is quite substantial, and I note your disappointment and understand that, but it isn't done to be obstructive. I think there genuinely is huge pressures. They've dealt with the department that deals with that has dealt with substantial amount of loan applications, grant applications. They've distributed roughly 30 million, and I think 1.9, which is really hopefully to help the businesses. But be assured we will do everything we can to help residents. And thank you for your question. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thanks. So the next item is, having dealt with the questions, we are now on to the first substantive item, which is the general fund and HRA account. Now, Councillor Seaton, I believe that the overview, the Scrutiny Commission actually examined this item on Monday and decided that they had no further comment to make. Would you like to speak to the item, or are you happy to accept that there isn't really an awful lot to say on that, is there?
There isn't an awful lot to say on it, no. The Commission did discuss it. It was presented to the Commission and there was no comments made on this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So I would like to invite Leslie Tansley to come to the table, and I will introduce the item. Basically, this is the outturn report for the year ending 31st of March 2020. You will see that we did spend more than we anticipated by £1 million. The majority of this was related to uncollected or planning fees that didn't come forward. Also 588,000 spent for supported living. We did have achieve the managed savings budget of 257,000, but there was a failure to achieve £100,000 of savings, which was non-specific within the finance and property services area. Now, I will ask Leslie to see if she would like to add anything else to the report. I think it's clearly we face some really substantial challenges going forward. This is historic, but it is also important that you're aware of what's happened. So Leslie, would you like to add some comments to what I've said?
Thank you, Councillor Barclay. Just to add, there's one carry forward item for 5,600 on the general fund to complete some outstanding systems work to be approved as part of this item 6 agenda. And also to note that the HRA, which is a separate fund to the general fund, made a surplus of 171,000 and has working balances of 8.2. I'm happy to take any questions on this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. Thank you for that. Is there any councillor who wants to ask any questions on the general fund? I can't see any hands up. I can't see anybody there, so that's fine. So this, as I said, is a historic. This is a historic report. So what I will do is I will ask you. I make the recommendations that the revenue outturn report position to the general fund and housing revenue accounts for 2019-20 be noted. That the carry forward of budgets amounting to 5,600 for Unit 4 upgrades and making tax digital GDPR financial system upgrades that are still to be finalised in 2020. This is to be funded for the general fund working balances. And the reasons 1 and 2 are outlined on page 9. Could I have a seconder for that, please?
I'm happy to second, Deputy Leader.
Thank you very much. And can I ask you individually, so are you all in favour? Can you, if you are, do disagree with it, can you please speak up now? So that's not, so that is unanimous and that is passed. Okay, so the next item, so that is now passed and noted for the reasons stated. So the next item is the capital plan 2019-20. And again, we have the Scrutiny Commission examined this in detail on Monday night. It seems ages ago now. I'm just going to ask the Chair of the Scrutiny Commission. There was no real dissent, and Councillor Seaton, would you like to make any comments on that, or are you happy to accept the report?
No, the Commission carefully considered the report and felt that Cabinet should approve the recommendations set out.
Okay, thank you. Right. Okay, so now again I will ask Leslie Tansley if she would like to. I'll just say that the capital plan, there is an amount, a slippage of 9.2 million. The majority of that, a substantial amount of the general fund slippage, which amounts to £8,404, is the 5 million that we said that we were going to invest in commercial activity last year, which we did not. The HRA has slippage of £886,100. So these are projects that we're going to do a complete review of the capital plan. We're also going to bring through a new budget for 2020-21, an interim budget in October this year. So there'll be a completely revised capital plan and capital strategy coming forward. So I'll just ask Leslie if you would like to add any further items on that.
Thank you, Councillor Barclay. I've got nothing more to add on that. Thank you.
Okay, so
if anybody's got any questions.
If anybody has any questions, please let me put your hand up, either physically or all right. Councillor Rattray. Just unmute. Oh, that's it.
Yeah. It's just on paragraph 7, so on the Shepshed Bull Ring. It was just to get a bit of clarity on where we're up to on that one. Is it in the town council's hands, and do they need any support from us to bring that forward?
So I think, Leslie, I believe this is one that's being worked up by the town council. Am I correct in that, Leslie?
I think the answer to the question is that it's been carried forward into 2020. It's the planning department that are involved in the project. It's certainly going ahead. In terms of any sort of detailed information, I'm quite happy to take that back to the head of planning services if you've got any detailed questions. Thank you.
Okay. Rob, you would like to say something on that, would you?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Barclay. Just to say that I had a limited amount of feedback on it today to suggest that there's been a very positive meeting of the town group that's leading on that with officers, and I think it's starting to move forward at a bit more pace now. But I think we could provide a further update and a bit of detail to Councillor Attery just to further reassurance, really. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Attery, are you happy with that answer?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? Okay, so it is proposed, I propose that the recommendations on page 22 of the report 1 and 2 are accepted for the reasons 1 and 2 on page 22. Does anybody have any dissent to that suggestion? If you can you put your hand up? So nobody is showing any dissent. So
Sorry, Councillor Barclay, do you have a seconder for that proposal, please?
Oh, a very good point. We do. Can I have a seconder for that? I believe it is Councillor Boker. Verbally, would you just confirm that, Jenny? Unmute yourself. It's not like you to be silent, Jenny. I think we ought to have this system more often.
Deputy Leader.
I can't believe you can't unmute yourself. Come on, Jenny. Come on. No. All right.
Do you want me to second this one?
Yeah, that would be good.
And then
thank you.
maybe Councillor Boker can second the next item.
Yeah. Okay, that's lovely. Thank you. Thank you, Roy. All right, so that is accepted by everyone, and we move on to the next item, which is the amendment to the annual procurement plan. Now, this item is a standard report. Basically, at the beginning every year, brought before Cabinet is all the contracts at the various levels that we are aware of. Throughout the year, new contracts which were not known about at the beginning of the year are brought forward, and we have a quarter report on them. The contracts fall between 25 and 75,000, 75,000 to 500,000, and anything over 500,000 has to be approved by Cabinet. You can see a list of the contracts in the appendices to the reports, and that is how it is. I will now ask, I mean, I can't think there's an awful lot, but Leslie can surprise me and tell me there is something else. So Leslie, if I could ask you, is there anything else that you would like to add to the report?
Thank you, Councillor Barclay. I've got nothing more to add to that. Like you said, it's a standard report with the procurements that we know about at the moment listed down. Thank you.
Right. So if Councillor Boker can prime herself to unmute herself, I will make the recommendations 1 on 2 for the reasons 1 on 2 on page 30 of the report. She's having difficulty unmuting herself. Could I ask
Councillor Barclay, I'll second this item. I think the monitoring officer is asking if we can vote on the items as well.
Okay, so right. So Councillor Mercer, are you in favour of this?
I am.
Okay, so Councillor Rollings in favour?
Yes, in favour.
Councillor Bailey?
In favour.
Councillor Rattray?
Yes, in favour.
Councillor Poland.
Yes, in favour.
Councillor Harper-Davis.
Yes, in favour.
Councillor Smidovich.
Yes, in favour, Chair.
And if you would like to put your hand up and smile, Councillor Boker. Yeah, that's so we'll take that as a yes. I'm sure the monitor office livid that this is being recorded, so there's a visible evidence that it has been agreed. So that's agreed. So the next item on the agenda is the Charnwood Community Development and Engagement Loughborough Grants redesignation. Could I ask both, well, one at a time? Julie Robinson is here and Verity Graham. So Julie, Head of Neighbourhood Services. Could you introduce the report? We're taking them as read, but if there is any councillor who has any questions or queries, please stand by to ask those questions. So Julie and Verity, if you could unmute yourself, and if there's any councillor who wants to ask a question, if you could just use the little hand to put it up on the screen.
Thanks, Deputy Leader. I was just going to ask Councillor Harper-Davis whether she wanted to make any comments first.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously the purpose of this report, this evening, is because we're amending the Charnwood Community Development and Engagement Programme, which is including environmental also and Loughborough Community Grant Schemes 2021. So I'll just read the purpose of the report, and then Julie can answer any questions or queries if that's okay. So
yeah, of course.
Thank you, Deputy Leader. The purpose of the report is to seek agreement from yourselves for proposed amendments to the Charnwood Community Development Engagement, including the environmental I've mentioned, and Loughborough Community Grant Schemes 2021, to ensure the provision of a grant scheme that supports the local voluntary and community sector to recover from the impact of COVID-19 pandemic. The report proposes the above Charnwood grant schemes to be amalgamated and renamed Charnwood BCS COVID-19 Recovery Grants for 2021 with revised criteria. The recommendations are set out in the report 1 to 5, and the reasons are to follow.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So if there are any questions, would you just indicate that you would like to ask a question? I can't see anybody. Oh, yeah. I think Paul, you would like to ask a question, or
yes, thank you, Deputy Leader. Julie, could I just the simplest first in the questionnaire on item 4E, it states, have you applied for or received any other emergency funding during the current pandemic? Shouldn't that be amended slightly to say, and if so, can you give details? Because if they've applied for a lot of money and had it, then obviously you won't give them money. And if they've applied for a lot of money and haven't had it, then you wouldn't. So I think perhaps asking for a bit more detail, would that make sense? First question.
We can definitely take that on board. I mean, that's what's implied by that question, but we can make it more explicit.
Okay, and the second one was, I may have misread it, but it's slightly unclear. I understand the business of ring fencing the 29.4 thousand for Loughborough causes. Once that has happened, does the remaining amount can it be distributed evenly over the whole of Charnwood, including Loughborough, or are you implying that there would be a bias to non-Loughborough causes?
In terms of the 29,400, it's funded through the Loughborough special expenses, so it needs to be earmarked for Loughborough, but the rest of the pot can be earmarked across the whole of the borough, including Loughborough.
So you would distribute it evenly. You wouldn't actually say, well, we've already given Loughborough charities causes this amount, we need to give some elsewhere, is what I'm trying to ask.
Yeah, in terms of the applications, we'll base it on the merit of the applications, but it's just the 29,400 that's ring fenced for Loughborough. But the community development engagement part and the environmental part has always been for the whole of the borough, including Loughborough.
Okay, and finally, would it, could I suggest in the recommendations, it's actually done with the agreement of the lead member so that we actually take responsibility for this, because it's potentially contentious. I'm sure there won't be any disagreement, but merely that it's in agreement and not in consultation with. So that would be an amendment to the recommendations.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Mercer. Is there anyone else who would like to make any comments or queries on this? No, I can't see anybody showing there. So, Councillor Harper-Davies, can I ask you to make your recommendations, and could I ask Councillor Smidovic if to second it, please?
Thank you, Deputy Leader. Do you want to be inclusive of the amendment suggested by Councillor Mercer? Do you want to say
yes, if you are happy.
I'm happy with that, as long as the officers are also happy with that.
Okay, that's fine. So your proposals are?
Yeah. So the recommendations are stated. Do you need me to read them out?
No, you can refer to recommendations 1 and 2.
1 to 5, and the reasons 1 to 5 on the second page, please.
And the amendments that you're going.
Recommendation with the amendments which Councillor Mercer has mentioned.
Okay, so we need to go through and vote individually on that. So could I ask Councillor Mercer, are you in favour of that?
I am.
4. Okay, so Councillor Rawlings.
Yes, Deputy Leader, I'm in favour.
Councillor Bailey.
Yes, Deputy Leader, in favour.
Councillor Attray.
Yes, I'm in favour of that.
Councillor Harper-Davies.
Yes, certainly I'm in favour.
Councillor Smidovic.
Yes, I'm in favour, Chair.
And I am in favour as well. And Councillor Boker, yeah, Councillor Boker has visually indicated that she's in favour. So I'm
in favour as well, Deputy Leader.
Where have you appeared from? I can't see.
That's a big question.
Oh no, there you are. There you are. Thank you. Sorry,
Councillor Barclay, sorry to interrupt. I didn't catch who seconded the proposal for that. Sorry if I missed it.
Councillor Rawlings, I think.
Thank you.
I don't think it
no,
was.
Sorry, it was Margaret. It was Margaret.
It's Councillor Smidovic on that one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I do second that.
Thank you. Thanks. So that is everybody in favour. So that's lovely. So item 10 is urgent decisions taken during the lockdown. And if I could ask the Chief Executive, Rob Mitchell, to talk to this item, please.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Leader. So this item asks Cabinet to note some of the decisions taken by myself and strategic directors and also heads of service during the pandemic using the urgency procedures. There are 4 references to delegated decisions, one relating to the Loughborough bid and the waiver of the levy fee there, one relating to the Charnwood Community Impact Fund, which members will recall we discussed widely in regards to top slicing some of the members' grants and using it to support the community fund, and also the establishment of the discretionary grant fund to businesses as part of the rollout of the government's national policy on discretionary grants. And then finally, the item to agree free car parking for a limited time period. All of these are historic. They're all actions that we took a little while ago, but need to be reported to Cabinet. And at the time, they've all been consulted on with either the leader, relevant Cabinet member, or indeed in some cases the whole of Cabinet. So happy to take any questions. Just to note that there still are a few additional historical delegated decisions of this sort that will come back to Cabinet at a future Cabinet. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. So could I ask, are there any questions that councillors would like to, any comments, questions or observations? Councillor Smidovic.
It doesn't.
You've muted yourself again, Margaret.
Yeah, it's unmuted. It keeps flicking on and off. Yes, it was just on the car parking. I know, you know, what we figured would be a lot or income not received. Let's put it that way. Has there been a definite date to open up, or are we sort of seeing what happens to start charging again?
I believe that they're starting car park charges again at the end of July. I'll just ask the Chief Executive if that is the case.
So thank you, Deputy Leader, and thank you, Councillor Smidowitz, for the question. The review was undertaken initially at the beginning of June, and it was agreed to extend it a little bit further. But the plan currently is to restart car parking charges at the end of July, beginning of August. And I believe we're due to roll out some communications on that basis, possibly from tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So we are asked to...
Deputy Leader, can I just come in for a minute? The Rushes are charging for the car park now.
Okay. Okay.
Is that appropriate? They are charging.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure that is that a council-controlled car park?
No, Deputy Leader, it's not. But I think it's indicative of what's happening in Loughborough and elsewhere in Charnwood, and indeed around parts of Leicestershire. More car parking charges are coming back online following the return to business in the town centres. We have been very sensitive and tried to stretch out the free period for as long as reasonably possible, but given the losses from the car parking income, we've determined that actually bringing those back in the end of the month is a reasonable thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. So, Councillor Mercer, did you want to say something?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Leader. Could I ask the Chief Executive, on page 1, and perhaps Adrian could clarify this, it states that under the policy justification, it cites the Constitution, section 8.3, item 3, and it quotes the Constitution as saying, report on the action taken being made to a future meeting of the Cabinet as appropriate. But with respect, the Constitution says, quote, a report on the action taken being made to the next meeting of Cabinet. So what I suggest is if we're going to quote the Constitution, it may be a good idea to quote the Constitution correctly. Would that be a fair comment?
Chair, if I can come in, this is my report. Yes, the Constitution, it does actually say the next available meeting. However, as you have corresponded with me, you picked up these hadn't actually been reported into the next meeting, but the following meeting. So yes, so it would be correct to have that in the Constitution, correctly referencing the Constitution, but they were reported in as quickly as we could do at the time. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we're going to that's in line with the Constitution. So so there are no other comments on this or queries. So we are asked to note the report, and I'll go through and make sure that everybody is happy. I can, so I will go through now. So Councillor Mercer, are you happy to note this report?
I'm happy to note this report.
Councillor Rollings, happy to note this report?
Yes, happy to note the report.
Councillor Bailey?
Yes, happy to note the report.
Councillor Rattray?
Yes, happy to note the report.
Councillor Boker, if you can indicate in your normal manner, yeah, that it is an affirmative. Councillor Poland?
Yes, happy to note the report.
Councillor Harper-Davis?
Happy to note the report, Deputy Leader.
And Councillor Smidowitz?
Yes, happy to note, Chair.
Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is the an exempt item. So we are going to go into confidential mode. It is recommended that the members of the public be excluded from the meeting during the consideration of the following item on the grounds that it will involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraphs 3 and 5 of Part 1 of Schedule 12A to the Local Government Act 1972. And it is considered that the public interest in maintaining the exemption outweighs the public interest in disclosing the information. So I'm now going to just ask Matt Goodger, the Information Development Manager, to confirm the meeting is no